Putting a value on status will create contentiousness. If you overvalue possessions, people begin to steal. By not displaying what is desirable, you will cause the people's hearts to remain undisturbed. The sage governs by emptying minds and hearts, by weakening ambitions and strengthening bones. Practice not doing. When action is pure and selfless, everything settles into its own perfect place. Unquote. Living contentment. This third verse of the Tao Te Ching advises rearranging priorities to ensure contentment. Focusing on obtaining more objects of desire encourages external factors to have control over us. Pursuit of status, be it monetary or a position of power, blinds us to our relationship to the eternal Tao, along with the contented life that is also available. Overvaluing possessions and accomplishments stems from our ego's fixation on getting more wealth, more belongings, more status, more power, or the like. The Tao recommends refraining from this kind of discontented way of life, which leads to thievery, contentiousness, and confusion. Rather than seeking more, the Tao practice of gratitude is what leads us to the contented life. We must replace personal desires with the Tao-centered question, how may I serve? By simply changing these kinds of thoughts, we will begin to see major changes taking place in our lives. The advice to practice not doing and trusting that all will settle into a perfect place may sound like a prescription for laziness in a failed society, yet I don't think that's what Lao Tzu is offering here. He isn't saying to be slothful or inactive. Rather, he's suggesting that trusting in the Tao is the way to be directed by the source of your creation and to be guided by a higher principle than your ego-driven desires. Ego-fixated wants can get in the way of divine essence, so practice getting ego out of the way and be guided by the Tao in all that you do. In a state of frenzy, trust in the Tao. Listen for what urges you onward, free from ego domination, and you'll paradoxically be more productive. Allow what's within to come forward by suspending worldly determination. In this way, it will no longer be just you who is conducting this orchestration that you call your life. Much of this third verse contains advice on how to govern. I view this not as political or administrative advice, but as it pertains to our own personal lives and those we're entrusted to guide, that is, our immediate families, and in a larger sense, the human family that comprises all of those with whom we're in contact on a daily basis. Encourage your relatives to empty their minds of thoughts about status and acquisitions, and think instead about serving others and contributing to the health and strength of all. Model the harmony of this attitude. After all, everyone has a calling to be inspired. The source of creation is not interested in material possessions or status. It will provide what is needed. It will guide, motivate, and influence you and everyone else. Ego, and its incessant inventory of desires, probably needs to be weakened so that the beauty of the Tao can be sensed. Demonstrate this to others by being a leader who removes the egocentric temptations that foster envy and anger and competition. If Lao Tzu were able to view our contemporary world from his 2,500-year-old perspective, I believe that he'd offer the following advice based upon this third verse of the Tao Te Ching. First, remind yourself daily that there's no way to happiness. Rather, happiness is the way. You may have a long list of goals that you believe will provide you with contentment when they're achieved, yet if you examine your state of happiness in this moment, you'll notice that the fulfillment of some previous ambitions didn't create an enduring sense of joy. Desires can produce anxiety, stress, and competitiveness, and you need to recognize those that do. Bring happiness to every encounter in life instead of expecting external events to produce joy. By staying in harmony on the path of the Tao, all the contentment you could ever dream of will begin to flow into your life. The right people, the means to finance where you're headed, and the necessary factors will all come together. Stop pushing yourself, Lao Tzu would say, and feel gratitude and awe for what it is. Your life is controlled by something far bigger and far more significant than the petty details of your lofty aspirations. And secondly, trust the perfection of the eternal Tao, for it is the ultimate source of all of the 10,000 things. The Tao is working for and with you, so you needn't remind it of what you crave or what you think it has forgotten on your behalf. Trust the harmony of the Tao. It took care of everything that you needed in your creation, as well as your first 9 months of life without any assistance from you and totally independent of any desires you may have had. The Tao will continue to do so if you just trust it and practice not doing so much. Inventory your desires and then turn them over to the unnameable. Yes, turn them over and do nothing but trust. At the same time, listen and watch for guidance, and then connect yourself to the perfect energy that sends whatever is necessary into your life. You, meaning your ego, don't need to do anything. Instead, allow the eternal perfection of the Tao to work through you. This is Lao Tzu's message for our world right now. Henry David Thoreau made the following observation in the middle of the 19th century as he wrote at Walden Pond, and I feel that it personifies this third verse of the Tao Te Ching. Quote, "Let us spend one day as deliberately as nature, and not be thrown off the track by every nutshell and mosquito's wing that falls on the rails. If the engine whistles, let it whistle till it is hoarse for its pains. If the bell rings, why should we run? I've always been regretting that I was not as wise as the day I was born." End of quote. Trust in your essential sageness. Don't let desires obscure your eternal connection to the Tao. Do the Tao now. Watch for an opportunity today to notice that you're planning on buying something. Choose to do the Tao and listen for guidance. Be grateful that you have the choice to make the purchase. Then practice listening to yourself and not doing. Through your feelings, the Tao will reveal the way for you in that moment. Trust it. You might be guided to buy the item and savor it with gratitude, or donate it, or procure one for you and one for someone else, or even to give the money to a charity instead of getting the item, or refrain from obtaining it altogether. Practice doing the Tao in everyday situations, and you'll know contentment in a deeper sense. As this verse says, when action is pure and selfless, everything settles into its own perfect place. Now that's my definition. Fourth verse of the Tao Te Ching. Quote, "The Tao is empty but inexhaustible, bottomless, the ancestor of it all. Within it, the sharp edges become smooth, the twisted knots loosen, the sun is softened by a cloud, the dust settles into place. It is hidden, but always present. I do not know who gave birth to it. It seems to be the common ancestor of all, the father of things." End quote. Living infinitely. The Tao is the source of all life, yet it is empty and limitless and cannot be constrained, quantified, or measured. This life-giving energy of creation provides a profound source of joy that's accessible at all times. If you live from an infinite perspective, you'll relinquish the idea that your own identity is the physical body in which you progress from birth to death. In your totality, you're an infinite being disguised as a person existing in the world of sharp edges and twisted knots, as this verse refers to. Coalescing within and around you at all times is the invisible, life-giving force of the Tao. It is inexhaustible, it is bottomless, it cannot be depleted. This fourth verse of the Tao invites you to consider rearranging your thoughts about who you are. It seems to be saying that cultivating an awareness of the infinite aspect of yourself is the way to tap into the limitless source of creative energy that flows through you. For example, you may want to help some less fortunate people improve their day-to-day existence, but you don't believe that you have the time or the energy to do so because of who you are and what you're presently doing. As you relax your hold on the idea of yourself as the job you do or the life you're living, and seek to acquaint yourself with the limitless creative energy that's a part of you, the time and energy you require will appear. Imagine yourself helping others, guided by the infinite aspect of yourself, will generate behavior and actions that complement your vision through the common ancestor of the Tao. Ultimately, you'll cultivate an absolute knowing that whatever assistance you need is right here and right now, in front of, in back of, above, and below you. It is empty, yet very much present. It is, as Lao Tzu reminds you, inexhaustible, bottomless, the ancestor of it all. Awareness of the omnipresence of the Tao means that thoughts of shortages or lacks aren't prevalent. Beliefs such as, "There's no way this will happen, it's not my destiny," or "with my luck things could never work out," cease to be entertained. Instead, you begin to expect that what you imagine for yourself is not only on its way, it's already here. This new self-portrait based on the cooperative presence of the invisible Tao elevates you to living an inspired life, that is, one of being in spirit, or in unending touch with the Tao. When you live infinitely, the rewards are a sense of peaceful joy, because you know that all is in order. This is what I imagine Lao Tzu's ancient words mean in our modern era. First, consider all things that seem to be a problem from the perspective of the eternal Tao. Believing that there's a shortage of prosperity is a signal to think in terms of the inexhaustible source, the Tao. Just like everything else on our planet, money is available in limitless quantities. Know this and connect to the bottomless supply. Do it first in your thoughts by affirming, everything I need now is here. Prosperity thoughts are energetic instructions to access your infinite self, so actions will follow them. Take this same approach, staying in harmony with the Tao, to all of your problems, for there's an all-encompassing supply of well-being to partner with. So rather than giving energy to illness and perceived misfortunes, stay with the Tao. Stay with what can never be used up. Stay with that which is the Father of all things, the creative source of it all. It will work with and for you, as you have it in your thoughts, then in your feelings, and finally, in your actions. And secondly, be an infinite observer. When acknowledged as a sign of change, worry is transitory. It's simply part of the world of the changing. If you view your life from the vantage point of an infinite observer, concerns, anxieties, and struggles blend into the eternal mix. From this ageless perspective, picture how important the things you feel depressed about now will be in 100, 1,000, 1,000,000, or an uncountable number of years. Remember that you, like the infinite Tao from which you originated, are part of an eternal reality. Rearrange your thoughts to practice thinking in alignment with the Tao. With the assistance of the eternal Tao, all of the sharp edges of life smooth out, the knots loosen, and the dust settles. Try it. Do the Tao now. Pick a situation today. Any situation will work. And instead of verbally responding, be silent and listen to your thoughts. For example, in a social gathering or business meeting, choose to seek the emptiness found in silence in order to be aware of your infinite self. Invite it to let you know when or whether to respond. If you find your worldly ego interpreting or judging, then just observe that without criticizing or changing it, you'll begin to find more and more situations where it feels peaceful and joyful to be without response, just to be in the infinity that's hidden but always present. You might want to duplicate this advice of my teacher, Nisargadatta Maharaj, and post it conspicuously so that you can read it daily, as I do. Quote, "Wisdom is knowing I am nothing. Love is knowing I am everything. And in between the two, my life moves." Unquote. And while you're living, stay as close to love as you can.
Your desire to attract prosperity represents a highly spiritual request. It's perfectly attuned to the law of abundance from which you originated. Your imbalances are energies in the form of thoughts that you mistakenly believe will bring about the desired prosperity. Following are 7 of the most common thoughts that make the manifestation of prosperity virtually impossible. Number 1. It's not God's will. By blaming God for not having what you need or desire, you justify a built-in excuse for accepting your lot in life. In reality, as St. Paul reminds us, God is more than willing to provide you with the blessings of abundance. In fact, God is pure abundance, but you're the one out of balance on the prosperity scale. By putting the responsibility for your shortages on divine will, you create enormous resistance energetically. You're asking the universe to send you more of what you believe in. The solution to removing this barrier, which applies to all 7 of these resistance energies, is changing the belief. By first catching yourself in the midst of a fallacious thought and replacing that thought with something like, I am a creation of God. God is abundant. I must be what I came from. Being like what I came from means that God wants me to enjoy the fullness of prosperity. This is how I'm going to express life from now on. 2. There's a limited supply. This thought represents enormous resistance to a restoration of balance on the prosperity-scarcity scale. Thoughts such as there's only so much to go around and everyone can't be wealthy Once again, the solution for removing this kind of resistance is to purge it and replace these thoughts with new energies that match up more harmoniously with the truth of the world that you live in. Try thinking of money in the context of the ocean. There's an infinite supply, more than enough to take care of your needs. The supply of money circulating around this globe isn't diminished no matter how much you take for yourself. Why? Because ultimately, money, like ocean water, has to return to its source. It just keeps circulating as energy. Take 1,000,000 gallons from the ocean, and it still remains the same. Here's how it works. Abundance is scooped from abundance, and abundance remains. 3. I don't deserve it. Here's a simple rule of thumb. When you believe that you're worthy of prosperity flowing into your life, then you'll attract precisely what you do believe. If you believe that attracting money into your life is in some way inconsistent with a spiritual consciousness, then you erect barriers of resistance to stop this flow. And the universe, being what it is, it submits back to you precisely what you believe about being undeserving. To change this idea and rebalance yourself on this scale, you need to realign your desire with the energy of your thinking. You need to keep reminding yourself that you are a divine piece of God. Feeling as if you're unworthy of God's abundance is the same as denying your spiritual essence and insulting your Creator as well. Remember that you came here to be just like God, but you broke away from that idea when you believed more in your separation than in your unity with your source. Silently repeat something similar to, I am a piece of God, a divine, individualized expression of God. I am worthy and deserving of all that God is and all that flows into my life. The abundance I desire is on its way, and I will do everything I can to avoid blocking and resisting this divinely inspired flow. And 4. I have limited abilities and talents. If you hold a belief in your mind that you don't possess the ability or talent to attract abundance, then you've weighted your balance scale with a lifetime supply of scarcity. This is a huge symptom of resistance masquerading as an excuse for why you're coming up short on the prosperity balance beam. Your inner vision will trump your innate talent every time. In fact, if you have the confidence that the skills or abilities you need are readily available, then you're on your way. Number 1, banish the excuse of no talent. And number 2, create an inner picture of attracting prosperity. And number 3, act as if by being what you desire. Act as if by being what you desire. You're as talented as you've decided to be up until now. Change the picture, and miracle of miracles, you change your talent as well. Number 5, I've never been lucky. The universe that you live in, and that lives in you, operates on energy and energy alone. Nothing happens until something moves, said Albert Einstein. Everything is vibrating, even what seems to be motionless. Your universe functions with the law of attraction, meaning that energy matches up with similar energy. Your thoughts are vibrations of energy. Low thoughts, those that are out of balance with source energy, attract low energy responses from the universe. High, spiritually based thoughts activate identical vibrations that bring you what you desire in harmony with your source. That being said, there's no room for luck in the universe. If you have an accident, you aren't unlucky and you're not at fault. You're simply a vibrational match to whatever you collided with in that moment. By viewing your world in this way, you can begin to exercise more choice about what you're matching up with. By changing the lower vibrational energy of your thoughts to higher vibrations, you set into motion energy that seeks to match your higher desires. 6. It's always been this way. When you use your personal history to justify why you're presently out of balance on the abundance scale, you're really saying, I have a long history of attracting scarcity into my life, and I intend to continue doing precisely the same thing. Thinking that the past is responsible for your continuing insufficiency is a major source of resistance. You've probably been taught that if you don't pay attention to the mistakes of the past, you're bound to repeat them. Here's my take on that advice. Keeping your thoughts on the mistakes of the past guarantees that you'll continue manifesting them in the present. I think you're better off tossing out your personal history or any deficiencies that have surfaced in your life. Refuse to think about what's failed to materialize unless you're hoping for more of the same. Avoid talking about your bleak past. Don't identify yourself as someone whose childhood or early adulthood was characterized by dearth and paucity. Instead, look upon your entire history as a series of steps you absolutely needed to take in order to bring you to the present realization of your endless potential for abundance. Be grateful for all that failed to show up. Then shift from resistance to the direction of manifesting your desires and rebalance your thinking so that it matches up with those desires. And 7, I don't know how to think abundance for myself. When you're convinced that prosperity consciousness is akin to a foreign language, once again, you've opted to resist rather than allow. You may not believe that you have the capacity to think in the ways that I've elaborated here in this chapter, but I assure you that you do in spades. It is you, and you are it. Your belief that you can't think in these ways exists only because you've allowed yourself to believe in your separation from your source.
Let's go for a moment to our dream. And just assume that we're going to have a dream. We're in bed. And let me ask you this question. This is a question I like to ask for you to just contemplate, one of those sort of cones. When you go to sleep at night and enter your dream state, what happens to the bed? Just think about that. What happens to the bed? Now you're in your dream. Okay? So just propel yourself into a dream state. And in your dream, you notice, let's say you're over here and you're in a room. And in this room, you look across the room and you notice that there's a podium in the room. And it has some objects on it. Now you're in your dream. So in the state of dream consciousness, you say to yourself, I would like to examine that podium more closely. How do you do it in your dream? How do you examine it more closely in your dream state? Do you get out of bed? Is there a bed? Now we're talking about 1/3 of your life here, folks, okay? 1/3 of your life. As Lao Tzu said, I went to sleep and dreamt that I was a butterfly. Then I woke up, and now I don't know. Am I a man who dreamt he was a butterfly, or am I a butterfly who's dreaming that he's a man? So in your dream state, do you get up out of bed, keep it right over there, say, excuse me, honey, wait, get out, and walk over and say, there's a galley of a new book, and there's a pen here, and there's a glass of water, I think I'll have a drink of that. There's a microphone stand, there's things. Do you do that? No, you don't do that. Because you enter your dream without any doubt. So what you do in your dream state is, are you ready? Shoo! Stay alert. And you bring it to you, don't you? In your dream state. Why? Because you have the power of your intention, can have an idea, and whatever you need for the fulfillment of your dream, you bring to you. Here it is. Here it is. Whatever you need. So you're 20 years old in your dream, and you need a jerk to be married to for the next 20 years. There he is. Isn't that great? You need a Maserati? There it is. Whatever you need for the dream, you bring to. Then you leave the dream and you come into waking consciousness, and now you look back on the dream, and you now have a whole new set of things that you've introduced. And that set of things is called doubt. And the second key to higher awareness, which I'll get to shortly, is called banishing the doubt, but it's connected here. As you enter your dream state, you enter without any doubt about your capacity to do anything. So you can fly, you can jump over trees, you can be young again, you can transcend death, you can stay underwater, you can communicate telepathically with anyone that you want to, right? You have all of these incredible powers. And if someone has died and you want them back, you bring them back. If you need to be 12 again, and then you come into this state and you say, I can't do any of those things because you're stuck in paradigms. And the paradigm says, you cannot change your shape, you can't shape shift. If you're a certain age, you're a certain age. You can't move yourself into, you can't be in more than one place at the same time, which you can do in your dream, easily. You can't do those things. And one of the things I talk about in Your Sacred Self is like learning to become a waking dreamer, to understand that you don't have to go to sleep in order to dream.
So now you wake up, and what I'm suggesting to you is that this is also a dream, only it's a 100-year dream. And in this 100-year dream, everything that you can do in your 8-hour dream, you can do in this 100-year dream. Everything. If you know better than to doubt it. And if you get rid of the paradigms that muck up your life. You have the capacity. But the minute that you introduce doubt into it, like that poem that I started out, Real Magic, which is really my effort to write about how to manifest miracles in your life. From Samuel Taylor Coleridge, he said, what if you slept? And what if in your sleep you dreamed? And what if in your dream you went to heaven and there picked a strange and wonderful flower? And what if when you awoke, you held that flower in your hand? Ah, what then? Is it possible to bring something from a dream state into a waking state? Or is that part of a paradigm? And the tiniest smidgen of doubt that enters your consciousness is what you will act upon. 7 key little words from Proverbs. As you think, so shall you be. If you think that it's not possible, what you think about is what expands. Or as Emerson said, the ancestor to every action is a thought. And the minute you have a doubtful thought in your consciousness, you will act upon that and manifest the fruit of that doubt. And not be able to see it. You will not see it.